Go home, you broke, jobless old lady. Why did you come on this trip for free? I was utterly disappointed with my family, as usual. I'll show you all what hell looks like. Deciding to take action against them while enjoying some alone time away from my family, my brother called me. Hey, what did you do, sis? Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lucy, a 30-year-old office worker. I've been dating someone for about 3 years now. His name is Alan, a true gentleman who treats me well and cares for me deeply. We initially met in college, where he was my senior, and I often sought his advice whenever I had work-related concerns or personal issues. Each time, he listened attentively and offered sound advice. After becoming working adults, we continued to meet up regularly. One day, he confessed his feelings, and we started dating. Since then, our relationship has been going smoothly, and we've been enjoying our time together, contemplating marriage in the near future. Then, one day, Alan proposed to me. Lucy, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? Yes. And so we decided to get married. We immediately informed our families about our engagement. Nice to meet you, I'm Lucy. Oh, we finally meet, huh? I've heard so much about you from Alan. You're just as cute as he said. I don't know about cute. Go on, have some confidence. Come in, come in. Thank you. Alan lost his father a few years ago, and now only my mother-in-law-to-be lives in his family home. I was anxious about whether I'd get along with her, but she's turned out to be incredibly kind and wonderful. We had a delightful conversation over tea and snacks. Lucy, you're such a wonderful person. I'm so happy you're going to be Alan's wife. Mother-in-law showered me with compliments, something I wasn't used to, leaving me a bit flustered. I'm looking forward to your wedding. See you, Mom. Thank you for today. The meeting ended on a positive note, and I felt relieved. But next, I had to introduce Alan to my family, a thought that instantly brought me down. The reason is, I don't really like my family. The root cause lies in how my parents treated me since I was a child. Both my parents excelled in sports. Mom was into track and field, and Dad was a soccer player. They were so good that they got into college on athletic scholarships, and naturally, they expected their children to excel in sports as well. However, I didn't have the athletic ability they hoped for. My parents always wanted me to excel in something, so they had me try out various sports. I remember doing basketball, swimming, table tennis, and even figure skating. But the truth is, I was never athletically gifted. I was average at best, and that wasn't sufficient to gain acknowledgement from my parents. They were clearly frustrated. Then my brother Kyle was born, with high hopes for a boy. They also immersed him into sports. Turns out, Kyle had a knack for soccer. When the local youth coach identified his talent, my parents were thrilled and shifted all their attention to Kyle. Kyle is truly a genius. Our child is definitely something special. Their words implied that I was the exact opposite. A disappointment. They favored Kyle in everything and acted like I didn't matter. Even as I grew older into middle and high school, they never paid me any attention. I focused on my studies and excelled, but they dismissed my efforts, saying being good at studying is meaningless. When I wanted to go to college, they told me they couldn't afford it, so I used scholarships to get by. Meanwhile, Kyle continued to excel in soccer and even got into high school on a soccer scholarship. My parents were ecstatic. He's definitely going pro. We can do anything for Kyle. Growing up so adored, Kyle started to look down on me. Lucy, you're such a loser and a jinx. Even Mom and Dad don't like you. If you aren't here, they could invest more in me. You're such a burden. Kyle would often insult me like this, and my parents never corrected him. You really are a burden. Wasting money on you is what they mean by unnecessary expenses. Hearing this from my own family crushed my self-esteem. I managed to get into a decent college and landed a job at a well-paying company. But my self-worth remained low, and my achievements were always overshadowed by Kyle's successes. He got into college on another soccer scholarship, And my parents were even prouder than ever. By then, I was already working and struggling to pay back my student loans. Kyle was still living at home, showered with love, attending college and playing soccer. But the path to becoming a pro wasn't easy. In the end, Kyle couldn't go pro and had to find a job. Still, my parents were proud, and Kyle continued to live happily at home. Every Christmas, when relatives gathered, my parents forced me to attend. They introduced me as their disappointing daughter and Kyle as their pride and joy. But Lucy is doing well and has a stable job. Even when relatives said that, my parents would brush it off. Seeing this, I was always disheartened. At some point, I stopped participating in Christmas gatherings. I ceased attending family gatherings and felt apprehensive about introducing them to my fiancé, Alan. Despite being aware of my family's attitude, Alan still desired a family meeting. After years of hesitation, I made the decision to return home. I called Mom to share the news, but her response lacked warmth or inquiry about how I was doing. It was disheartening, considering it was my first contact with her in several years. "I'm getting married, and my fiancé wants to meet the family. Can we arrange that?" I asked tentatively. "Why should we go through such trouble? Just get married on your own," Mom replied coldly. Her response left me disappointed. Then I heard Kyle's voice in the background. "Mom, who are you talking to?" "It's Lucy. She wants to have a family meeting because she's getting married," Mom explained. "Really? Sounds fun. I want to see how lame her guy is. Let's invite them," Kyle chimed in. "If Kyle says so, then fine," Mom relented. "All right, you can come for the meeting." Feeling a mix of emotions after overhearing their conversation, I decided to visit my family on my next day off. Alan warned me to be prepared for the possibility of them treating us poorly. "Yeah, I get it. But if that phone call was any indication, you've got quite the family, huh?" Alan remarked. "This isn't a joke. I've had a tough time with them. Sorry. But if we're getting married, I want to meet your family. We'll make it quick and leave, okay?" I replied. And so we drove to my family home. No one answered the doorbell, so I used my key to let us in. As we entered the living room, I saw my family sitting on the sofa. I was surprised to see an unfamiliar young woman there, but I decided to proceed with introductions. "Hi, everyone. It's been a while. This is my fiancé, Alan. Nice to meet you all," I said, introducing him. My family's reactions were unexpected. "Wow, I thought Lucy would bring home some boring, unattractive guy, but you're actually decent," Kyle commented rudely, causing even Alan to chuckle awkwardly. "Kyle, who's that woman next to you?" "Your girlfriend," I inquired, annoyed that Kyle had brought an unrelated woman to a family meeting we had scheduled in advance. "She's my wife, Mia. We've been living here since we got married." Kyle dropped the bombshell. "Wife?" I was so shocked. My eyes widened. "Wait, you got married?" "Yeah, last year. I had no idea." Kyle responded nonchalantly, while Mom looked annoyed at my reaction. "You're so nosy. It's none of your business if Kyle got married." I was stunned to learn that Kyle had gotten married without informing me. Frozen in disbelief, I absorbed this shocking news until Dad addressed Alan. "I'm not interested." "But what do you do for a living?" "You're marrying Lucy, so it can't be anything impressive." "But let's hear it," Dad remarked, pulling me back to reality with his words. I couldn't allow them to belittle my fiancé. Clenching my fists in anger, Alan gently restrained me. "I apologize for the rudeness. Here's my card." Alan handed his business card to Dad, who initially looked dismissive, but then widened his eyes. "You're a lawyer," Dad exclaimed. Mom, Kyle, and Mia were also surprised. "Wow, this is amazing. Elizabeth, get some tea for our guest." "Right, I'm on it." "Wow, a real lawyer." "So cool." The attitude of my family changed instantly. "Lucy's fiancé would be a lawyer. You should have told us sooner. Is your salary really high?" "Buy me a designer bag for my birthday." Mia's audacity was surprising, especially considering it was her first meeting with Alan. Alan responded with a wry smile. You can't say such things to my fiancé, even though it's our first time meeting each other. We're going to be family, so let's get along, he replied calmly. At a meeting between both families, my parents and Kyle's family were very active participants. Even my mother-in-law seemed a bit taken aback by their enthusiasm. After the meeting, I apologized to my mother-in-law, but she had already heard from Alan. Don't worry about it, she said with a smile, which relieved me. My mother-in-law was genuinely a good person. 2 months later, Alan and I got married. My family, who had always been indifferent to me, all attended. After the wedding, they started contacting us frequently. Why don't you two join us for dinner sometime? We know a great restaurant, Mom would say over the phone, her voice full of enthusiasm. I suspected they were after Alan's money since he was a lawyer, but I wasn't falling for that. We're a bit busy, so we can't make it right now. We'll let you know when we can, I replied cautiously. All right, we'll be waiting. We're free anytime, Mom said, her voice full of enthusiasm. I was thoroughly disgusted by their lack of genuine care for me. It was clear they only wanted to exploit my marriage to a wealthy man. After not contacting them for a while, Mom called again a few months later. When are you going to join us for dinner, Lucy? She asked in a cloying voice. Sorry, we're a bit busy, I replied, ready to hang up. But then Mom continued. We're planning to celebrate my half-century birthday. Your father and I did raise you through high school, you know. It wouldn't hurt to show some gratitude. I could sense her growing impatience for us to treat her well, but she had a point. I had paid my own way through college, but my parents had supported me until then. Maybe it was time to show some gratitude. As Mom turned 50, she invited us to join the celebration. All right, we'll join the celebration, I agreed reluctantly. Really? We're planning a family trip, so come along, Mom exclaimed with excitement. A family vacation, huh? I wasn't thrilled about it, but then I thought it could be a chance to spend some quality time alone with Alan. When I mentioned it to Alan, he agreed, so we decided to join the family trip. When I told Mom, she was ecstatic. Could you handle the reservations? I'll send you a bunch of URLs for hotels and plans, she said eagerly. Reluctantly, I checked them out. They were all for luxury hotels and high-end restaurants. How extravagant did she plan to be? I was annoyed by my family's endless demands, but figured this might be a one-time thing, so I went ahead with the bookings. When I called to say the reservations were complete, Mom was overjoyed. I can't wait. Thank you, she exclaimed. Finally, the day of our half-century family vacation arrived. We planned a trip to Florida. We boarded the plane, and everyone seemed excited. Both my parents and Kyle's family seemed to be having a lot of fun. Upon landing, Alan and I told the family we'd go our separate ways. They tried to get us to shop for souvenirs with them, but we dodged that bullet and went off on our own. We agreed to meet up for dinner at the high-end restaurant we had booked. Time flew by as Alan and I enjoyed seeing the sights, and then we arrived at the restaurant where our parents and Kyle's family were already waiting. You're late. Well, we still have 10 minutes until our reservation, Mom said. Suddenly, Mom and the others changed their tone. We weren't talking to you. Well, we have business with Alan, not you. Thank you for covering the cost of this fancy dinner and hotel stay, they remarked. Alan was confused, and Kyle and the others turned to me. You're done here, Lucy. You don't deserve any of this, you parasite, they shouted. What are you talking about? I asked in confusion. Go home, you jobless loser. What's your deal coming on this trip for free? Their words stung deeply. I was utterly disgusted by my family's behavior. It became evident that they intended to exclude me from the start. You'll regret this, I whispered to Alan. Fine, I'll leave now, I said aloud. Our parents and Kyle's family looked smug as they entered the restaurant with Alan. Quickly, I made other arrangements. Fortunately, a good hotel had a cancellation, so I booked a room and checked in. I relaxed in the lounge with a great view, sipping coffee when Kyle called. What did you do, Lucy? What do you mean Alan's gone? he interrogated. I have no idea, I replied calmly. He's usually clueless but sharp when it matters. Sure, but it's no big deal. I told him I'm staying at another hotel, so he should join me. You're kidding. Alan left before the food arrived and never came back. We had to pay the bill, Kyle explained. Well, it's Mom's special celebration, isn't it? I retorted. Shut up. You'll get the bill later, Kyle snapped before hanging up. Soon after, Alan arrived at my hotel grinning. Did it work? Were they mad? He asked eagerly. Yeah, they were furious. They're hopeless. You were going to pay for everything, and they still acted like that. I explained, watching as even Alan was dumbfounded by their behavior. We shook it off and enjoyed a meal at the hotel's upscale restaurant. Returning to our room, we relaxed and woke up refreshed the next morning. We got up and enjoyed some sightseeing. We didn't want to fly back at the same time as our parents, so we changed our flight to an earlier one. While waiting for our flight, Mom called, furious. Hello, what's up? I thought you didn't need me for anything, I answered. What's the meaning of this? Why is the hotel bill due at checkout? That's not how I made the reservation. Don't joke around. We can't afford $11,000 per person. If you enjoy the luxury, you should pay for it unless you want to get arrested. Stop it. You're so arrogant for a parasite. You're the one who needs to stop. She ranted angrily before I ended the call. I had planned to cover all the expenses for this trip as a gesture of gratitude for all the years of support you've given me. But you messed up by kicking me out, I expressed, a hint of disappointment in my tone. Wait, you were going to pay for all this? Mom's voice betrayed her surprise. That's what I've been saying. There's no way you could afford that, Dad interjected skeptically. Don't underestimate me. I work at the headquarters of a major corporation and even serve as a manager. I earn significantly more than Dad and have substantial savings, I explained firmly. Really? Mom was left speechless. But at that moment, it didn't matter anymore. I had decided to cut ties completely. I have to board the plane now, so goodbye, I declared, feeling the need to sever the conversation. Wait, hold on. Mom's voice trailed off as I hung up and promptly blocked all their numbers. Luckily, they didn't know where we lived or worked, so they couldn't show up unannounced. However, my foolish family decided to storm the law firm listed on Alan's business card. They caused a scene, demanding to see Alan and disrupting business. Kyle even broke some office equipment, leading to their arrest. After splurging on the family trip, they now had to pay damages and fines. Both Dad and Kyle were fired from their jobs, and now they're all working part-time jobs, living in poverty, and constantly fighting. Talk about getting what you deserve. Meanwhile, Alan and I continue to live happily. I'm pregnant, and we recently celebrated the birth of our beautiful daughter. With my mother-in-law, I plan to cherish my family, Alan, my mother-in-law, and our daughter, and live a joyful, fulfilling life.